All right. What's going on, fellas? We are live. It's week 18. I'm sure you guys don't play fantasy in week 18. If you do, you should probably change your league rules because we got some players sitting today, getting ready for the playoffs. There's a whole bunch of mess of things going on. Basically, we want to just hop on here, talk about some playoff scenarios, and tell you guys it's the last chance for our giveaway as well. Danny, what's up? And then we'll get into the contest details and stuff.
Not much. Realistically, again, you guys shouldn't have your week 18 be your fantasy championship, but the only, case would be like, say hypothetically, the championship last week maybe came down to Bills and Bengals, and maybe your compromise would be whatever their week 18 output was. So that could be potentially the only real, fantasy scenario, if you will, with substance. But either way, no, I'm doing good. Obviously, if you guys watched football yesterday, the Jacksonville Jaguars, like Corey mentioned, clinching the 4th seed in the AFC. Playoff implications, well, we know that for the most part, if things happen the way they're supposed to today, we should be getting a Chargers versus Jacksonville Jaguars first round matchup in Jacksonville, which,
right?
I mean, I think everybody in the football world wants to see Justin Herbert versus Trevor Lawrence duke it out for a spot in the divisional round.
Yeah, that should be a really fun game too. Do you think the Jags open as favorites in that game? Or Chargers maybe a 2-point favorite or something like that?
I think it's going to be like Jags -1.5, -2. I would probably say like on a neutral site, you'd probably favor the Chargers by like a couple points at least.
I think the line will probably open that the Jags are dogs by like 1 or 2 points.
I'll bet the Jags money line at that point because I do think this is like quite literally the definition of a 50-50.
Yeah. They're both playing well right now. Both QBs are playing well. Like it's not a stretch to say that the two teams are pretty much equal. We did I can show you guys the playoff best ball master sheet. So for those of you guys that are doing these playoff best ball drafts, I know Brock and some of the other guys that are in the chat a lot. You guys have been doing them over there on Underdog Fantasy. We did get some clarity about some of the seeds yesterday with the Kansas City Chiefs. They are locked into the 1 seed now. Unfortunately for the Buffalo Bills, they got screwed out of it a little bit given that the game was canceled. But we do have Kansas City going to be locked in the 1 seed. Like you said, Chargers and Jags will be guaranteed a first round matchup now pretty much. I think the Chargers are going to sit everybody. And even if the Ravens were to win today, they would become the 3 seed, I believe, right? Against the Bengals because it's a divisional matchup. And then we would have the Bengals slide down to then the 6 seed. So that'd be unfortunate, obviously, for Cincinnati because they'd really get jobbed out of some home playoff games. But that would be the only real shakeups I think that we can see in the AFC. And then obviously the 7 seed is up for grabs with Miami and New England and Pittsburgh.
What I'm curious, okay, hear me out. So hypothetically, that's the scenario as if Baltimore were to beat Cincinnati, you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay. So what I'm confused about, because I know there's like a coin flip, and then they said like there would be a Ravens versus Bengals wild card. Like, how does that affect things?
I think the reason there would be a coin flip is because I don't think there's an actual tiebreaker between Baltimore and Cincinnati right now. I think like their division, like if Baltimore were to win, which is the only way that this would actually happen, this coin flip scenario, because if Cincinnati wins, they're the 3 seed and that's that, and Baltimore's the 6 seed. I believe if Baltimore wins, they'd have like the same divisional record. They'd have like the same conference. Like I think that's why there's a coin flip, unless they're doing the coin flip because they're counting Buffalo, Cincinnati is a no contest, and they're not necessarily counting as a win or a loss for Cincinnati. So I'm not exactly sure the semantics of it, but I believe that is the scenario. If Baltimore wins, there's a coin flip to determine who's the 3 seed and who's the 6 seed.
I thought it was a coin flip. They were going to force that into the wild card game, and that was a coin flip for home field. I thought that's what
just that game was. Or for Buffalo also?
No. Okay, hear me out, right? So if Baltimore were to beat Cincinnati this week, what I thought would happen is that it would be guaranteed that they play the wild card anyways. Only it would be a coin flip.
They'd be the 3 and the 6 regardless of order.
Okay. Which is like,
yeah, I don't think there's anything the Chargers could do today to not make them the 5 seed. And I don't think New England, Miami, Pittsburgh, whatever, couldn't get the 6 seed. I don't think it's possible.
Agreed.
So I believe that no matter what, the AFC North matchup will be the first round matchup. It's just a matter of who has home field. If Cincinnati wins today, it's not messy. It's just they have home field. If Baltimore wins, then that's where like the coin flip scenario comes in.
The thing that really puzzles me to a certain degree, and again, I know obviously the NFL push in this scenario didn't really have much of a better option, if you will, obviously with the tragic news that happened on Monday, but it just kind of feels like, at least Buffalo has a chance to play a neutral site AFC championship. The Bengals did control their own destiny, and now that it kind of feels like they don't. So
They didn't actually control their own destiny because Kansas City would have had to lose.
But they could have played for the 2 seed is what I'm saying.
Right,
If they
right.
beat
They could have
Buffalo,
gotten
they
the
would
2
have had
seed,
it.
but they had no chance of getting the 1 seed knowing that Kansas City won yesterday.
And that is fair. I just think like at least like if they were to play in the divisional, Buffalo versus Cincinnati should be a neutral site game. That would probably be the most fair scenario. But
Right.
I mean, I understand the Buffalo had one more win. You know, we're making an assumption that Cincinnati potentially could have won that game, though they were up 7-3 at the time of the injury. So it's just fascinating because I have seen, you know, both perspectives on it, and it's, you know, an unprecedented situation in the NFL.
Yeah, like even in the COVID year, we didn't have any games that were like ruled canceled or no contest or anything like that. So it's pretty crazy that that happened because, you know, we just have never really seen it. So Seth says, any fire prop bets y'all thinking? My advice, generally speaking, would probably be to stay away from prop bets this week, especially overs.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to bet prop bets, I would stick to unders, just given that we're going to have teams sitting players and, you know, depending on they're going to scoreboard watch, and depending on other game scores, they might sit players. So if you're going to do any overs, I would suggest you do them for like backups and like, you know,
that's what I was just going to say.
Anytime
like,
touchdown bets for like backup running backs are probably good bets today.
If you bet an anytime touchdown yesterday on Ronald Jones, you probably made a quick buck because I mean those odds were probably pretty crazy going into that game.
So I won a bet yesterday. I had Kansas City minus 9.5. The under of 52.5 points, which got a little hairy at the end, but it was fine. And Isaiah Pacheco was an anytime touchdown score. So that was really irritating to me watching McKinnon score the first touchdown. Ronald Jones scored the second touchdown. I'm like, I'm really going to hit it out of a Pacheco touchdown. And then he eventually scored. So I ended up winning the bet. That was 25 to win 190. So that was a pretty decent win that I had yesterday. I'm probably going to stay away from the main slate. If I bet today, it'll probably be Detroit and Green Bay. Assuming that Seattle loses, so that game is fully, you know, a win and in scenario for either team.
That's the biggest game with it, playoff implications this week, obviously, right? Because I mean, realistically,
the Baltimore and Cincinnati game also has a ton of playoff implications.
Baltimore, Cincinnati, obviously the Steelers, they need to win to still have a chance to clinch the playoffs. And then I mean, the Bills,
Patriots, 1 seed guys are all, you know, scenarios too, with the Eagles game, the 49ers game, and the Cowboys game. But that's going to all depend on what happens in Philly, right? If Philly, with Jalen Hurts playing today, if Philly is
against the backups of the Giants,
against the backups of the New York Giants who have nothing to play for. And they're up 27-1 or 27-0, 27-1 in the first.
Are they minus 16 right now?
Yeah, like the line actually. Yeah, let me look at the line right now.
It's probably climbed even further, but the last time I checked, it was like minus 15. So like it's probably like minus 16 or higher now.
It's 16.5.
Yeah.
16.5. So, I mean, you're looking at a situation where I probably wouldn't bet on against the Eagles losing. It's probably. You know, the 49ers are going to sit their starters by the third quarter at the very latest. And same goes for the Cowboys. Like their backup QB with Sam Howell. The Eagles should be able to take care of business against the Giants. The one game that's really interesting to me that I think has playoff implications is Rams Seahawks, because I think historically Sean McVay's been very good against the Seahawks.
You think the Rams could spite win that one?
Like we also have like word that this could potentially be like Sean McVay's last game too. Like I know like a lot of Rams people are plugged into the idea that Sean Payton might be an option for them because like Sean McVay,
I heard that,
want to retire after the year. Aaron Donald has already come out and said stuff like that. There was whispers about Matthew Stafford wanting to retire, but it sounds like he'll be back. There's a lot going on in Los Angeles right now, but I think you could get like a let's play our last game for our coach type of game out of the Rams.
And the reason why I think that would be a more likely scenario than them just flat out tanking is they don't have their own pick. So there's no draft implication if they win. Oh, big fucking deal. You go from like the 43rd pick to the 47th pick. My bad. It's not like you're dropping like, or I mean, it's going to be like earlier than that, but you know what I mean? It's not like you're dropping from like the 4th overall pick to like the 9th overall pick, you know what I mean? Because you don't have that pick.
So. That's the other implications that we're going to have today is the 1st overall pick, right? Because Houston has a winnable game against Indianapolis. They're only a 3-point dog. Indianapolis at home. So neutral site. This is I
think Houston wins that.
Yeah, and there's a good chance that they could pull a Jets and go from Trevor Lawrence to Zach Wilson the way that the Jets did in week 17, I believe it was, of 2020 when they went and beat the Rams on the road, I think it was too.
What are the odds that we seriously get a Chicago to Houston trade down from 1 to 2 and Houston gives them like a fucking 3rd round pick for free when they could have just got the pick on their own?
I think it would be way more fun to have Chicago with the first pick because then it opens
So
up
much more
teams to move
opportunity.
up 2-1 to hop Houston.
That and you have the fascination. It's like, are they going to stick and pick, or they can take a Carter or Anderson, or what they should do? Are they going to field the offers and maybe potentially deal with the Indianapolis?
Yeah, the Colts might want to come up for Bryce Young.
That's what I'm saying.
There's other teams in that range. Like some teams might want to throw out a Godfather and really just throw 2 1s at somebody and come up from like the early teens even, or the late top 10 to come up.
And if you're Chicago, realistically this offseason, your main goals, you have to get a wide receiver one for Justin Fields' development. You have to build up the
collect
trenches.
talent on defense. Your defense is completely devoid of talent right now.
You need talent overall, 100%. Realistically, they have like so much cap, the most cap in the entire NFL. Potentially the first pick, which not only can they, keep and pick an impact player, but now you can leverage to potentially get more future assets. Could you just imagine if they had kept the 32nd overall pick that they traded for Chase Claypool earlier this year?
Because that pick ended up being that high. Like that's insane to me that Chase Claypool's pick. Like it's smart by the Steelers. They were like, we're going to trade him to Green Bay. We're going to trade him to Chicago. Like Chicago's pick's going to be higher. It makes more sense.
100%. And I mean, if you're Pittsburgh now, that gives you an opportunity where hypothetically, if there's an offensive tackle that you really want to trade back up into the first four, maybe you use, your 1 first-round pick on the best corner in the class, and there's a tackle maybe in that top tier that you want to trade up for. You add, the 32nd pick and maybe another second or third rounder in the future. You trade it up to, fringe top 20 and potentially get like a Paris Johnson type. That would be an 8+
Buccaneers special, by the way. Trading down to 30, the early second round and picking up a mid-second rounder in the process. Jason Light would eat that up if we're sitting at like pick 22 or something and nobody's available that we like.
And then taking a 5-tech.
Yeah, freaking Logan Hall. Anyways, yeah, he did realistically, he did nothing this year, but I think I got some hope for him. He was more of like a developmental guy anyway. Nate says early start. You love to see it. Yeah. So the reason we're doing an early start is because I'm going to a spa in like 20 minutes with my girlfriend. So we're going to be I'm going to be hopping off here around 11:45 Eastern. Danny might hop. I'm assuming
maybe 15 minutes or something like that.
Longer. Yeah. So now that there's some people in here, again, I want to remind you guys that this is the last week for the Underdog giveaway. We'll end it probably like the wild card, like before the wild card game. So if you guys haven't already signed up on Underdog, again, promo code FSE gets you 100% back and on first deposit. Now that fantasy football is over, you guys can do some pick'ems over there. I mean, Seth was talking about any fire prop bets. You can do hires and lowers. You can use pick'em insurance. There's a ton of stuff that you can do over there. And right now, actually, too, if you use our promo code, you'll get access to a boosted pick'em line, which is, I believe, like 0.5 completions for Justin Herbert in the wild card game. So that will be an easy way for you guys to build out a pick'em thing if you're first getting into the Underdog game. They also have Battle Royale drafts. And of course, me and Danny have been talking about playoff best ball for a couple weeks now, which is the most fun way, in our opinion, to get action on the NFL playoffs. And again, if you guys sign up from now until, the next like week or so, you'll get access to a giveaway where we're going to be giving $50 of on-site credit to 5 different people that use our promo code. Again, not a ton of people have signed up so far. You guys have a very, very good chance of getting that on top of the 100% bonus that you'd have for just using our code period and the extra pick'em line and all that stuff. So there's a ton of cool stuff going on Underdog right now that you guys can check out. I will drop the link to sign up in the chat. Danny, if you want to get to some more comments in the meantime, while I pull that.
Yeah, I'll handle that. A little bit sore from yesterday. Ripped a pretty big, pretty large 2-hour back day, and deadlifts alone were pretty crazy because I started at
2-hour workout. That's crazy.
I was doing 5x5s. I started at 495, but that shit after like the first.
That's how much you deadlift is 495.
Yeah, for 5x5s.
Jesus Christ, dude.
And then I went down to 475 because I wasn't trying to like full kill myself yesterday.
Yeah, I would be in the hospital trying to do 1 rep of that. So
such a weird week for betting. 100% is.
Yeah, I would highly suggest that you just avoid the situation here.
Hey, appreciate it, Keiki. Keiki here, new to the channel, enjoying this deal. Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Don't usually get a lot of new subscribers this time of year. I think some people are like, I won my championship. Let me unsubscribe. But yeah, stick around, man. Like we'll have you covered for the NFL draft. And even if you aren't a dynasty player, which I highly suggest you get into it if you aren't a dynasty player yet, I think there's a lot of redraft benefit from checking out the tail of the tapes and the rookie rankings and stuff, because the further you can get ahead of your league mates, even if you're just in a friends and family league, just checking out some of these rookie content will help you get prepared for your redraft leagues as well.
100%. Appreciate the support there, though, Keiki. Nice seeing you in the chat. Packers going to finish this epic comeback to clinch a playoff spot tonight. Go Packo.
Honestly, that's probably what's going to end up happening. The likely scenario is that they're the 7 seed.
I've wrestled with it a lot, and realistically, I know, going into week 1, because the matchup would pretty much be San Francisco versus Green Bay. Yes, like you would favor San Francisco on face value. I would agree. I think that
they kind of own the Packers for what it's worth.
That too. However, you're playing a defense that's played much better ball recently if you're San Francisco, and you got a rookie 7th-round quarterback in the game. If Green Bay is able to keep that game, 14-14, 17-14 going into the 4th quarter, and then we got Aaron Rodgers 1 quarter to potentially win a playoff game, like I wouldn't be shocked if Green Bay came out with that one.
Yeah. As good as Brock Purdy's been, he's a rookie 7th-round pick going against a guy who has more playoff experience than he probably has starting experience, period, going back to his college days. Like, the berserkers in the NFC are absolutely the 2 very experienced quarterbacks. It's Tom
100%.
Brady and it's Aaron Rodgers. Once you get into the dance, the records don't mean anything. It's about who's playing well. The Green Bay Packers are playing well. If Tampa can keep up what they did against Carolina from last week, then they could be playing well. Those teams, even though they've been disappointing this year, it's possible that they can knock off at least one good team, if not a couple.
Well, the thing that what I've learned about the playoffs in particular is it really doesn't matter who you think is the objectively better team. It matters who can make more plays in the game. And when you have a quarterback like that, with that experience, with that level of poise in big moments, like, doesn't matter how bad the team was coming in. It doesn't matter if you're 9-8, if you're 10-7, even if you're 8-9 going into that game. Like, realistically, there's still, experience to be had there, value in the experience that they have. So that's why, when I'm picturing the NFC, I do think, a month ago or so, I was like, the best team should win. The best team should win. It's like, yes, the best team should win, but there's so much inexperience at the top of the NFC compared to, some of the teams barely creeping in. So I can see anything happen. Like, would it shock me if, hypothetically, 2 of the 3 wildcard teams were to win? Would it shock me if, the Niners and the Vikings fucking dropped out in the 1st round? Nothing would shock me in the NFC, the 1st round of the playoffs.
We'd have like a full circle situation if going into the year, we expected Green Bay and Tampa Bay to be great teams, and they were terrible all year. They barely squeak into the playoffs, and we somehow get a Brady versus Rodgers NFC championship. I think that'd be kind of hilarious. I don't think it's so likely. Gross. Like I said, maybe I'm being an overly optimistic Bucs fan. We're probably going to get bounced in the 1st round, as we should, because we're not a good team relative to what we've been the last 2 years. So
but when you have Tom Brady, the illusion's not going to be a thing, because realistically, did you expect to win the Super Bowl in 2020? Did you expect to be? Did you
Once we beat New Orleans, I was like, we're going to win the Super Bowl.
But that's what I said. Like, going into the playoffs, I still remember you said we're going to lose to New Orleans. Like, they're the team of destiny. I think they're going to win the Super Bowl. So, like, anything can happen, because it's like, realistically, like, going into that game, New Orleans was probably the better comparative team. But when you have 4 turnovers, when you give Brady a shot to clinch a game, like, anything can fucking happen.
Yeah. And that's another thing too, is like, people say defense wins championships too. If you get a defense that gets hot and starts taking the ball away, which Green Bay's defense is capable of doing, Tampa Bay's defense is capable of doing, even New York's defense has been capable of doing at times.
I can see them playing spicy with the Vikings. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a chance that those teams just win off of turnover margin and mistakes and penalties and stuff. Like, teams lose playoff games on a lot less.
By the way, how gross would it be if we somehow got, for E's sake, I'll just say Dallas or Tampa Bay hosting the Giants in the 2nd round, because the Packers upset the Niners and the Giants upset the Vikings. So we had an Eagles versus Packers, which, again, like, you want to favor the Eagles, but if Aaron Rodgers wins one playoff game and gets hot, who fucking knows what happens at that point? And then on the flip side, we have one of our teams going up against the fucking New York Giants. So.
Yeah, which we've struggled with the Giants every time we've played them. Like,
Daniel Jones
they play us really close.
Daniel Jones. I still remember Daniel Jones's coming out game where he had didn't he score 38 and fucking throw 4 touchdowns?
We also had the game that was coming down to the very last play that Winfield broke up a 2-point conversion to tie the game or to win the game or whatever. I don't know if you remember that. That was on Monday Night Football, I think, in 2021. Yeah, that was a close game too that we almost lost to a really bad, like a not good Giants team too. Like, and we won this, like we were, lost only to the Super Bowl team in the divisional round against the Rams there. So got destroyed last week, averaging 155 points a week, and lost a guy that had Mike Evans, Brady, and Swift stack killed me. He got 178. Yeah, you hate
Sounds
to
like
see
my experience this year.
Yeah, you hate to see something like that. Do y'all think they will yank Dalvin Cook early? So the Vikings and Bears play at 1 p.m. The game that they would be score. They're not even they can't scoreboard watch anything. They're locked into.
They're locked into the 3.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe there's like a weird scenario in which like San Francisco loses and like maybe they can hop up a seed or something like that. But I think for the most part, they're gonna probably yank Dalvin Cook early. Like I don't think they're gonna really keep him in the game.
Did you see that? So the starting quarterbacks this week, Baltimore starting Anthony Brown against the Steelers.
Ew.
Anthony Brown. I guess Huntley's not ready.
Anthony Brown starting against the Bengals?
Yeah. Sorry, not Steelers, Bengals. Yeah, their third string quarterback.
Okay, so like, I mean, the Bengals, this coin flip scenario is irrelevant. The Bengals are going to win that game.
Chicago starting Nate Peterman.
Yep.
Washington, obviously, starting Sam Howell. Facts. Obviously, Washington starting Sam Howell. Miami starting Skylar Thompson this week. But knowing
Sam Howell in with these bums.
Yo, by the way, side note, so it's the fucked up thing about Miami this year is that in games that Tua hasn't started, the backup quarterback who started in for him hasn't finished the game. So Skylar Thompson's the third string Miami quarterback. First of all, who are they bringing to play backup this week as like the technical?
They signed Glennon this week.
I wasn't sure if they activated him off the practice squad.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure he'd be the backup quarterback this week.
We have Mike Glennon coming into the game in the year 2023 to
potentially
potentially clinch a Miami playoff spot. Probably is. Davis Webb obviously starting against the Eagles this week, and then Sam Ehlinger starting for the Colts. So
Davis Webb's still on the Giants? What the hell?
No. He got drafted by the Giants. Then he left the Giants. Then he was like free agent, and then he signed back to the Giants practice squad. Now he's back on these journeyman fucking quarterback paths are so funny to track sometimes.
Yeah, the 2018 class, it's kind of interesting that there's been like these random guys that have popped up. Like I remember for whatever reason, Daniel Jeremiah thought it was like a very deep quarterback class, and he's like, I think we're gonna get some like long-term backups in the NFL, and he was kind of right because Mike White has kind of worked out that way from that class, but he thought like Kyle Lauletta and Kirk Benkert and Davis Webb were all going to be like great quarterbacks.
Yo, no cap though. Shout out to Kurt Benkert, right? Okay, hear me out, right?
He's a streamer now, right?
That's what I was just going to say. Obviously, we know, he's not a great NFL quarterback, but he used his platform to his advantage. He did fucking like Twitch Rivals. He collabed with these fucking huge million follower plus streamers, played Fortnite with them on like that broadcast with like millions of people concurrently watching. And now he's like making a living from his streaming because he built a fucking market. He built an audience, basically using his standing as an NFL player to gain more marketability in streaming. It's actually it's actually remarkable when you look at it because it's like,
he recognized I'm not going to go anywhere as an NFL quarterback and then just decided to pivot.
Unbelievable, though.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll rip through a couple more questions, and then I probably got to hop off here, and Danny can rip through some himself. My roster was Burrow, Fields, Barkley, CMC. Yeah, I can't believe you didn't win that, dude. That's brutal. Just took over a Dynasty Orphan. Yeah, we are in Dynasty Orphan season. I'm seeing a ton of people that I follow on Twitter being like, got an orphan in my league. I know me and you have a couple orphans that we're going to talk about, potentially giving away to some people. We are going to have, so next week, we're going to be breaking down some Dynasty buys and sells. Do we want to do buys and sells first at each position, or do we want to do rankings first?
I would say probably buys and sells.
Yeah, I'd say you want to get ahead of things. So I'd say probably buys and sells first. We're going to go over each position. The answer for running back, obviously, would be sell them all, but, we will have to come up with some buys for sure.
It's speaking of that, it's actually funny that you mentioned that because I think it was David Gautieri tweeted yesterday or 2 days ago.
I saw the tweet.
But he was basically like, oh, any running backs like ranked RB11 or later or must sells in Dynasty. And literally all I did was just like erase the range that said RB11 plus. And I said fixed it. Because it's like realistically, if you have a running back in January, in February with any type of value, you should be looking to get more liquidity right now because you're holding so much fucking risk in the offseason. Like realistically, other than Bijan Robinson, is there any running back that's truly, truly value insulated?
Yeah, I mean, if Brees and Javonte don't get injured, they'd probably be in that category, at least
Yeah,
close
agreed.
to the top of the
Agreed.
list. But yeah, now with those injuries, it's definitely a problem. The other thing too is like you could say that in practice, and people might be like, "Well, that's not really true. You need running backs to win for a competitive team." But if you had sold, potentially guys like Elijah Mitchell last offseason, guys like Michael Carter last offseason, and then before the season, you just picked up James Conner, Leonard Fournette types for second round picks or mid to late second round picks, you probably would have netted 7 or 8 picks worth of value in your rookie draft because you might have gotten late first for those the like Elijah Mitchell, Michael Carter types. So definitely interesting when you think about it. Like you can actually make those those profits without having to risk anything, right? Because you're just getting draft picks in the case of moving off those players. But Cody says he took over a dynasty orphan with some older players such as Kamara, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen. Do I wait till I'm season 2024 to try and sell? I would say it's probably better, given that they're veterans, to gauge the market on them now. If you're not getting the value that you want, then move off of them in the future. But you get any first round draft capital for any of those guys, I'm moving off of them. Even if you have to aim for 2024 picks, 2025 even potentially, if you're very far ways away from competing once you rebuild, I'm cool just moving those guys now if you can get the value. But if you can't, obviously, then I would wait.
Yep, agree with you there.
Jordan with a start sit question in week 18, White or AJ Dillon. So I'm assuming this is Rashad White or AJ Dillon. I'd probably roll with Dillon just given that they have a lot to play for. Aaron Jones has been kind of banged up lately. Rashad White, while he's not the starting running back, probably on the depth chart with Leonard Fournette, they're going to play backups. Like they're going to play nobody. So I don't even think Rashad White qualifies as somebody that they would play.
Agreed. Let's spam these out.
Yeah, let's spam like 2 more or 3 more, and then I'll hop off of here. You boys like the Bengals to cover the spread -9.5 today. My leagues are over. I don't mind to spray some money. Yeah, I like that. That's a good spread. I'm gonna look real quick at one spread that I liked because I think there was one that I really liked.
I mean, I guess we're gonna be technically starting our playoff betting next week because I mean, there's no reason for us to do like locks and underdogs this week because there's so much fucking variance. But next week,
there's no point, especially with going nuts players and stuff.
Your underdog of the week next week is going to be Tampa.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, dude. Yeah. So
I'm assuming it's going to be like minus.
The Bengals are actually 10.5 point favorites on FanDuel. So if you can get them at 9.5, I would say it's probably a decent bet.
Well, that's pretty crucial for the hook, right? Because I mean, technically speaking, you like 10 point is a very reasonable margin of victory. So if you're getting 9.5 versus 10.5, that's pretty huge.
Yeah, that's a good point. I really like the Steelers -2.5 today. The Browns have nothing to play for. The Steelers don't control their own destiny. They're going to be scoreboard watching for sure. But I believe some of the teams that they have to have lose are playing in like the later window too. So it's possible that the Steelers just need to take care of business, need to win that game. And the Browns might be, less inclined to play starters or something like that. Maybe get a look at their young guys before the season's over.
I would agree with you. However, I will say it would be so Cleveland to just play petty and try to knock Pittsburgh out of the playoffs, considering that keep in mind, too, they don't have their own first-round draft pick. However, for my own bias, I do want Pittsburgh to win because it would be very, very nice if Houston had an extra, high pick to work with, especially if they're able to clinch the first pick today. I mean, I'm just thinking from a dynasty perspective. Could you imagine, they get Bryce Young and then add, an Addison, a Quentin Johnson, a JSN to that draft. And suddenly you're looking at an offense with potentially Mechie coming back from next year, depending on
Collins, who showed a little bit this year. They'll probably trade Cooks in the offseason or cut him, one of the two.
I would agree with that. So overall, by the way, looking back, I'm so glad that Dallas didn't trade any assets for Brandon Cooks because basically T.Y. Hilton's just playing that role.
Yeah, he's been fine for free. Okay, last question for me, and I'll hop off of here. Goon Boys in here. Algier, Madison, or Swift with Cook? I would play Swift. Swift is the one. I mean, the tough thing though is that you won't know if Swift is going to play the full set of snaps here. Let me look at Madison. What time are they playing at? They're playing at 1. Also, I might be inclined to just go with Madison there, to be honest. Because if the Lions have nothing to play for, it's possible that Swift doesn't really see that much work. And that's a risk that you probably don't want to take. I don't know if this is like a cumulative like championship that you're in, and if you don't want to make mistakes like that, I probably would roll with Madison because I do expect Cook to probably get very minimal work.
Yep, no, I would agree with you there.
Okay, so I'm gonna hop off here. Danny can continue answering some questions. Appreciate you guys for joining us again. Check out that contest before it ends next week, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Take care, brother. Is there? All right, so I'll be handling the rest. Let me just quickly change the branding right now. That's not mine. Okay, so I'll be going up about 12 o'clock or so. Try to get as many questions in as possible right now, especially for those of you guys still competing for championships. So, yes, sir. Yep. Namesake. True to it. Should I start Tony Pollard? Who are your other options? Because I am a little bit concerned here. Obviously, Dallas, they said coming in, oh, we're going to start our starters, and I still think that's going to be a valid case, especially if Philadelphia don't get off to a scorching start against the Giants. But realistically, if the Cowboys are looking, in the second, third quarter, and the Eagles are beating the Giants, like Corey was mentioning, like 27-3 with the backups in, like I am concerned about Tony Pollard potentially getting yanked from this game. Maybe a guy like Malik Davis getting more touches. So who are your other options? Because for the most part, if you are playing in fantasy championships this week, it's very, very awkward, if you will. There's a lot of variance this week if you're playing any guys with non-playoff implication matchups. So start Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts. I would go with Josh Allen personally. It just, Jalen Hurts coming into game banged up. Obviously, Josh Allen's still playing to potentially, win the division, or they got the division, but make sure that they're ahead of Cincinnati. Make sure that they're, rested and well ready for the playoffs. So, and with Jalen Hurts, there's always the risk that if they get up early, realistically, he can get yanked from this game. So, I would go with Josh Allen. Enjoying the spa. I appreciate it. Yeah. Why do people have their championships in week 18? I mean, I would agree because I do see, what other people see. However, from my perspective, it just adds way too much volatility playing in week 18 because, I mean, we're basically, walking on straws right now trying to picture out who exactly is going to be yanked before game time, who's exactly not going to be yanked, who's going to make it to the third quarter, who's going to make it to the fourth quarter. Like, it's a lot of projecting right now. It kind of feels like a preseason game for the most part, in my opinion. Start sit Najee Harris versus Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon for me, they still have to play for that division. Obviously, if they win, can fully clinch it, not worthing or not making it to that tiebreaker scenario. So I would go with Mixon. Yeah, that is fair though. There's definitely a lot of work to be done for week 18. Sit Najee, not even a question. Yeah, I would definitely go with Mixon there. Purdy or Goff in a 4-point passing touchdown league, I'm definitely going with Jared Goff, potentially still playing for a playoff spot, especially if the Seahawks were to lose the game this week. And not to mention, I mean, the Lions just seem like the type of team that even if they are eliminated, they will give the Packers their best fighting chance. And I mean, feel like they're petty enough to potentially knock Green Bay out, even if they are, not able to make it. I have Jamar as a keeper in the 8th round for next season. Could you ever switch to keeping Garrett in the 13th? 1-round penalty after first kept year. I still got to go with Jamar Chase. He's still a top 5 level player for me entering next year. I get the value on Garrett, and I really like the value on Garrett, but realistically, getting Jamar in the 8th is basically stealing, in my opinion. Should I start Mark Andrews with the third string? Any other options? Who are your other options? I'd be curious to know that there, Goon Boy. Yeah, Rubio said he wouldn't start Andrews. I would definitely want to know what your other options are if you have any playoff implication players in that mix. Pick 2, Jonathan Williams, Matt Breida, Gary Brightwell, Cortland Sutton, Chuba Hubbard, or Jeff Wilson Jr. So I would go with Jeff Wilson Jr. For sure, in my opinion. And in terms of the other one, it's kind of tough projecting what exactly we know, but I would probably just lean with Cortland Sutton here, try to build momentum going into 2023, not to mention they don't have their first round pick. So I would go with Cortland Sutton and Jeff Wilson. Full PPR. After the season's ending, I'm not surprised if there are any more orphans than normal. I got screwed in a few leagues. Yeah, a lot of people are dropping leagues right now, which is, shit happens, but realistically, there's nothing we could do. Mark Andrews is inactive, so I mean that was announced on the live stream. So the Ravens are basically running out of third string Pee Wee squad right now. Do I start Kenneth Walker, Pollard, Aaron Jones, Christian Watson, Jefferson, Devontae, full PPR? Please start wide receiver in a flex this week. It's week 2 of my championships and need to win it all. So for sure, I mean, Kenneth Walker is going to be entering my lineup because they're still playing for a playoff spot, and they won't know if they get in or not. Obviously, with the Lions-Packers game going on later. So I do think that the Seahawks are going to give it their best effort thus forward. Kenneth Walker, we know if he's healthy, if he's getting that full workload, he's going to be, a 20, 25 plus touch per touch type of player. So he would be my flex for sure in terms of the wide receiver spot. I think you got to go with Justin Jefferson, although there's not really much that they're playing for. He's still playing for potentially 2,000 yards. They, want to give him an opportunity to fully, have as good of a year as possible, set records. So with Justin Jefferson, I mean, realistically, he's the most talented player out of that group. Still is playing for potential, stats, and it's hard to project anything else at this point. Yes, sir, Toronto Dave. Let's go. I'm barely up in the championship, so Madison, it is that is fair. Hey Danny, how do I bring it up to my league to change the championship to week 17? Basically, what you got to point to is how much variance is going on in week 18. Because realistically, like even us as content creators, it's really really tough to truly know exactly what teams' intentions are. Not to mention, we already have kind of indicators that some of the best players in fantasy football won't be quite useful. Given for example, the Giants are clinched. They're benching a lot of starters this week. Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, if you're streaming him up to this point, guys like that are not going to be available for you in your lineup. So if you're able to, erase as much variance as possible and make it so that the best teams actually indeed win, that's my case for having a week 17 championship, because trying to project, who's going to be pulled early, who's not going to be pulled early, who has something to play for. It's a lot more random thinking and a lot more random occurrences that can happen, to the point where it doesn't really feel like, true fantasy, if you will, where you're picking your best players, you're starting them instead of, worrying, oh, what's their playing time going to be in this particular game. Mark Andrews is out. Komet, Hunter, or Jawan Johnson. Hunter as in Hunter Henry. Let me know there. I would probably go with Hunter Henry if that's Hunter Henry, because they still have obviously something to play for, potentially getting that playoff spot. Najee or Chubb, full PPR. I would go with, personally, they're both kind of gross, but I mean, I would go. That's tough. I probably would just go with Chubb here, especially. Yeah, probably just go with Chubb here. That's a pretty gross question though. Also have Knight. So Madison, Knight, Algier, Moss, Wilson Jr., Patterson, or Josh Williams from Washington. Can you only start one of these guys? Because if so, I would go with Jeff Wilson. Rashid Shaheed or Jahan Dotson. I had Dotson in, but took him out because of the quarterback situation. I'd probably still go with Dotson, because I mean, realistically, I don't view Sam Howell as much of a drop off, if you will, from Carson Wentz or Taylor Heineke. So Jahan Dotson, talented rookie receiver, looking really good when he's played. So I would definitely go with him. We're running week 18 for the player scores who missed Bills Bengals. If they play less than 20% snaps due to resting starters, we're taking an average from season for that player. 50-50 prize pool, winner takes the crown. Yeah, I think that's actually a very reasonable way to handle the championship. Obviously, our thoughts and prayers are out to DeMar Hamlin and his family. This is an unprecedented situation, like I was mentioning earlier in fantasy football. We've seen COVID rescheduling games, obviously a couple years ago to Tuesday night, Wednesday night type of games, but we've never seen a case of a game getting fully canceled. So it's a lot of variance, and commending a lot of your commissioners in your league for how they've approached it. But realistically, like, there's no right answer here. There's no set answer, because there's so much a lot of variables going into their matchups, going into that Monday night game. Were you up 20 points and you needed just Josh Allen to score 20, or were you up 100 points and the guy had 3 guys left, hypothetically? Like, there was so much that could have happened in that game. Projecting it, obviously still over 3 quarters left. So whatever your commissioner decides, whatever the championship matchup in your league ended up decided, I do think is best suited depending on what exactly the scenarios were leading up into that week 17 game. So 50-50 prize pool. Yep. Trey McBride, Gerald Everett, or Robert Tonyan need a tight end. I'm probably just going to go with Gerald Everett, Robert Tonyan. I would go with Gerald Everett here. I got 6 first rounders in my dynasty. Should I sell some of them? I would definitely hold them for now. If you want to sell them at the draft day, where a lot of players are going to get hyped. Obviously, the NFL draft is just within steam. A lot of people in your league are going to want those picks, want to turn those picks into actual players. I would be willing to sell at that point. But right now, I just don't think you're going to get peak value. So as a result, you can pretty much monopolize your first round of your draft. You have 6 of the 12 picks, hypothetically, if this is a 12-man league. You have 6 of the 12 picks in your draft. So realistically, if people want players, they're going to have to come to you, and you could basically set the market for what exactly picks are going for in your league. So that's ultimately why I love, owning first rounds, owning drafts, if you will, in Dynasty, because you can basically have so much flexibility, so much, fluidity with what you want to do when you're on the clock. Justin Fields, but now with him out, would the Vikings defense be a solid choice? I have the 49ers, but they screwed me over last week. Yeah, I mean, I personally would just go with the 49ers. I know they screwed you over last week, but they're so damn talented. They're the best defense in the entire NFL, and they're still competing for potentially the 1 seed. So I would definitely go with them. Chubb, Montgomery, Wilson, Moss, or Madison. Is Madison going to start? Can start too. Thanks, buddy. Full PPR. I would probably lean with. Oh, it's tough knowing the situation. Offhand, I would probably go with Chubb and Montgomery, but I mean, if there's news that Madison starts prior to that game, obviously you could definitely put him in. So that's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. I would go with Chubb and Montgomery, though. It's hard to know exactly what the playing time implications are going to be. Bro, Chase, Hurts, AJ, Allen, Diggs can take the chance of any team sitting starters. I would go with Burrow, Chase, because I think they have the most to play for out of that group there, Greeny. For reference on that decision, one player had a 25-point lead with Chase to play. The other player had an Allen Knox act, so it would have been harsh to call it. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It definitely would have been tough to call because realistically, you would assume that the team with Allen Knox would win because with Chase would win because theoretically 25 points would be about Allen, and then you'd expect Chase to outscore Knox. But I mean, there's just way too much variance that could have potentially happened in that game. What if Chase doesn't score a touchdown? What if Knox scores a touchdown? Like, you never know. So I do think that you guys came to a pretty good compromise there. In my league, Super Bowl, I had Diggs and Chase starting last week. Why do you think ESPN took away the 4.3 that Diggs had before that stopped the game? When 12-2 all year, now I'm fighting to win a Super Bowl. Yeah, it is pretty weird that you don't get the points, hypothetically. Though, again, I'm assuming they're making that under you guys potentially making a compromise, maybe week 18 points, maybe figuring something out in terms of, projection or something like that, whatever the case might have been. So, yeah, it's honestly, I wish I could provide more input on it, but realistically, like, this is such an unprecedented situation that if anybody realistically can say, oh, I have, this pure perspective on what should have happened, on what ended up happening, they're bullshitting you, because realistically, any league, given league to league, given, potential matchup occurrences that were needed, it's tough to say any one rule should be the best rule for every league to handle, in my opinion. So that's how I view it. A lot of my leagues needed different scenarios in the championship. Heck, I was in a championship this week that probably couldn't have been as close as it possibly was. I was up about 13 PPR points going into Monday. The opponent had Stephon Diggs. So realistically, I mean, that is like as 50-50 as you can get. You would probably favor Diggs there, but realistically, like, those are the type of scenarios where you'll never truly know exactly what would have happened. And I mean, validly so, they canceled the game like they should have. They handled it appropriately. But for championships and fantasy, you're kind of left wondering what exactly would have happened. So I do agree. I'm willing to answer, whatever couple comments we do have left. Obviously, it's 12 o'clock. We're going to be heading off quite soon. So if you guys have any last question, advice that you need, lineup decisions, playoff scenarios, whatever you need, feel free to drop it. And I'll probably end this off at about the 45-minute mark in the live stream. So feel free to ask those questions. I'll handle whatever comes my way. But I mean, talking about the playoffs as a whole, I mean, obviously we mentioned some of the scenarios. Realistically, the Packers are still fighting for the 7th seed. The NFC, we don't exactly know who the 1 seed is going to be quite yet, but we're figuring it's going to be Philadelphia with about a 99% chance. Could be San Francisco, could be Dallas, but against the Giants backups, it should be Philadelphia. Got a question here from Domain. Yo, Danny, hope it's been a good weekend, man. Yeah, appreciate that, brother. Appreciated that. It's been good so far. Obviously, been quite busy getting my grind in. It's nice knowing that obviously for the most part, fantasy, other than week 18 players, the regular season is done. We're focused fully on playoffs now. We're focused fully on, potentially mapping out gauntlet pass, mapping out, mitten pass, stuff like that. And it's fun because, I mean, I love, thinking about the hypothetical, thinking about what potentially could happen. And now we're going to see a lot of it materialize within the next few weeks. So it's definitely exciting. So Hunter Henry and Jeff Wilson Jr. Yeah, that's probably where I would lean because they have the most playoff implications in their matchups, and they're still quite good options in their own right. So that's where I would lead there, good. Nobody start this week, but when are you likely to pick up the team review series again? Love the content. Yeah, appreciate that. So Dynasty decisions should be, on full effect, especially during the off season. I would expect either next week or the week after would be the first time we bring it back. But realistically, it's just been tough in the redraft season. Obviously, we have the pretty much set schedule we've been doing with the rankings, the start sits. waivers that we were doing, streamers that we were doing, the live stream. So it was tough to fully get a consistent in-season Dynasty decisions. But I mean, this offseason, like, I wouldn't be shocked if we did one at least once every 2 weeks, probably maybe even once every week, because you guys seem to love them. We try to get you guys as fully engaged as possible. And ultimately here, the best way to learn Dynasty is to see how other people are attacking similar situations. So I definitely do agree that that's one of the most beneficial series we have on the channel. Waddle or Watson? It's tough to know. I would go with Jalen Waddle here. Yeah, I would go with Jalen Waddle. I feel like they kind of know realistically what they're going to need going into that game. I think he's a better player still, but that's about as 50-50 as you can get. You know what? Because, I mean, realistically, Christian Watson on Sunday Night Football is going to be playing for the playoffs too. So I go Waddle, but, man, that's really close. Choice for mid-tier receivers, Wilson, Olave, or DJ Moore. I would probably just gear with Garrett Wilson here. I know Joe Flacco is starting, but Chris Olave obviously, been banging up with that hamstring injury, and DJ Moore, the Panthers really have nothing to play for at this point. Even though the Jets don't, I feel like it's more likely the Jets are going to want to beat the Dolphins than it is, the DJ Moore and the Panthers going to want to compete this week. Appreciate you both and all the dope content all season long. Loved watching your shows very much. Yeah, appreciate that, Dave. It means a lot, man. We come here, we grind, and ultimately it's for you guys because we want you guys to succeed. We want you guys to get as much beneficial information as possible. So appreciate that we can, help you guys to the degree we do. Combine can't come soon enough. Yeah, I can't wait to watch some guys in spandex run 4.4s. That'll be pretty interesting. No, I'll jokes aside though. Combine season every year is so great because we're literally, wondering what this 21-year-old out of, Western Kentucky, whether he's going to run 4.35 or 4.3 or 4.38. Like we're speculating on the tiny minute details of athletic testing, which it's fun because I mean, realistically, we're such degenerates to the point where we'll bet on some props. We'll do this, we'll do that. But yeah, Dynasty content season. Let's fucking go, brother. Dynasty season as a whole, realistically, is at its peak in the off season. Getting deals done, having your rookie drafts. Talking some shit in the league chat, whatever the case may be. Yeah, Dynasty season is amazing, especially when the content's on the way. Yeah, your schedule makes sense for the vids you guys put up. Look forward to it and have a good rest of the week. Yeah, too. Appreciate that, brother. Go Cowboys today, especially. Great advice, buddy. Thank you. A lot of the other channels are all over the map. Yeah, but I do, empathize with them because realistically, it is tough, especially in week 18, knowing exactly how to handle certain situations. But appreciate it. I try my best over here, and if I can help you guys, potentially secure those championships, if you're in a week 18 championship, that's as good as I could do. Appreciate the support. Would you start Waddle and Watson to move Aaron Jones from flex and replace Jeff Wilson Jr.? That's probably how I would handle it, is going with Waddle, Watson, and Aaron Jones there, Game Boy. By the way, thank y'all for the year of decision making. Anytime, brother. Anytime we can support, we will do so. So appreciate you for continually supporting the channel. Keenan Allen or T. Higgins full PPR? I'd probably lean with T. Higgins, just more to play for in that game. And realistically, that's the only indicator we truly have at this point. So hopefully T. Higgins can have a huge game. Bouncing back, obviously, it's been a hardy week. It's been a heavy week for him, dealing with a lot of the backlash that happened from the DeMar Hamlin, which, by the way, realistically, if anybody's actually, putting any type of blame on T. Higgins, I truly am disgusted on that because it's a football play. He's putting his shoulder down. He's, fighting through contact, trying to get extra yards, and a simple statistical, I don't think a lot of people realize how much of a statistical anomaly what happened to Hamlin actually happened. And thoughts and prayers. And I'm so glad and I'm so proud that he's able to recover even to the degree he has thus far. But for those of you that are unaware, basically, it's the amount of contact, it's the location of the contact, the location of the trauma that happened, and ultimately the exact electrical pattern of DeMar Hamlin's heartbeat. And it actually ended up stopping his heart on the field. So I'm grateful for the first responders. I'm grateful that they were able to revive his heart on the field. And realistically, this is about as good news as we possibly could have hoped for with him, doing the FaceTime call with the team, him being active on social media, him having full functionability in terms of his, neural pathing. Like it's pretty remarkable the recovery that he's made in less than a week. So thoughts and prayers there. I'm glad that people are starting to realize, and I'm glad that Hamlin's family basically reached out and said, listen, like T. Higgins is just doing his job. T. Higgins is just making a play. So I had to address that because I just saw the name, and I'm a very passionate person. When things are weighing on me, I like to express myself to you guys. So Dalvin Cook, Jamal Williams, or Jeff Wilson, I need to in PPR. I would go with Dalvin Cook, but it's kind of gross because we don't exactly know what they're going to need. That's tough. Wilson or Jamal, because Dalvin not playing whole game. I would go with Jamal Williams there just because there's more to play for, in my opinion. Akers, Zeke, or Latavius Murray start two. Probably go with Akers and Zeke, but that's pretty gross. Anytime they're technically talky, but either way, third of you that have made it thus far, you know what? I'll go until 12:15. I'll give you guys 8 more minutes. Obviously, you guys, have until 1, so I'll give you guys 8 more minutes to get as many comments as possible, get as many questions in as possible, because the stream's for you guys, man. The stream is for you guys. Also, pretty, exciting situation if you guys are still playing for your championships, obviously. But yeah, no, I mentioned the NFC scenarios. Obviously, the Green Bay Packers still playing. The 1 seed is still in discussion. And as we know, in the AFC scenario, it's basically coming down from the 7 seed between Miami, between the New England Patriots, between the Pittsburgh Steelers. So should be interesting to what happens. What do y'all do in the offseason as far as the channel? So it's a lot more macro-based content. It's a lot more strategy-based. We do a lot more Dynasty content. In terms of last year, Dynasty Decisions was a big part. Our Dynasty rankings. We did some matchmakers for where we wanted to see, potentially the top prospects go. Had Trevor Sikkema, had, Matt Harmon, Angelo Fantasy. A lot of big time analysts out there join us on potentially projecting forward exactly what the best fits were for the best prospects. So if you guys want to rehash some of the stuff that we talked about last year, feel free to do so. They're still posted on the channel. But yeah, like it's honestly a lot more easier on us, I would say, because it's more free, it's more engaging. We can, potentially go into a study. We could potentially, go into, some type of video ideas that we can't really have the liberty to do so in the season, because obviously in the season, like we said, it's very, very tight knit. It's very, very schedule based. So that's the one thing why I personally enjoy the offseason of fantasy content more. It's because not enough people are truly grinding, truly putting out consistent content like we do. And B, we have more luxury. We have more ability to go into some video ideas that we don't have the liberty to in the season. So that's my best take on it. You think Cowboys starters playing a full game got Dak and Zeke? I don't think that they do. The reason being is I don't see a scenario where the Philadelphia Eagles lose to the Giants backups this week. However, if we get to the second or third quarter and the Giants are still hanging in with the Eagles, I do think the Cowboys are going to give their best fight. So it's tough. Because I'm going under the assumption that I think Philly has this in the bag quite early. My answer to this would be the fact that I don't think that the Cowboys are going to make it realistically out of the second or third quarter in this game. Homeling arrangement for week 18. I'm up by 40.28, and my opponent has Allen and Chase. That is going to be an absolute sweat there, Domain. Absolute sweat. Zach Moss, Fournette, or Gus Edwards. I'd go with Fournette here. It's gross, but yeah, the whole question is pretty gross. Not gonna lie. Might get sweaty. Yeah, absolutely might get sweaty. But yeah, talking about the AFC, obviously Miami, New England, and then Pittsburgh all fighting for that spot. I believe the order it would go is if Miami wins, everything's moot. But if Miami loses, New England wins, New England would make it. But if both of them lose, Pittsburgh would make it. So should make some fascinating scenarios today. Obviously, 1 4:30, and obviously the Sunday night game. So should be very interesting, guys. Should be very interesting. Yeah, if you guys have any, scenarios that you need to happen, obviously going into the game, let me know what type of battles you're dealing with, if you will. Garrett Wilson or Algier at flex full PPR. I would go with Garrett Wilson in a full PPR there, triple. Full PPR, Garrett Wilson or DJ Moore. I also have Mike Evans, but he might sit early, so that's why I'd rather play one of the other two. I would go with Garrett Wilson here. Obviously, it's tough to know exactly who's going to sit and who's not going to sit, but realistically, I would go with Garrett Wilson personally. My lineup is Josh Allen, McKinnon, Aaron Jones, Waddle, Watson, A.J. Brown, Hunter Henry, and Buffalo D. Any other defense options maybe. I would personally just rock with Buffalo D there. Obviously, you got that Jerick McKinnon touchdown, so that helped you a lot in your lineup there, Goon. Is Mike Evans startable? It fully depends on what your other options are, in my opinion. I think he could be, a wide receiver 2-3 fringe type at best, but realistically, he's obviously got a lot of volatility in his own game, and they're not really playing for quite too much, in my opinion. But either way, went on a little bit longer than I thought. If you guys have any last second questions, I will go probably until the 55-minute mark in the live. Lions playoffs. I think the Packers are going to make it. Unfortunately for the Lions, they pretty much need a lot to go their way. They have to beat the Packers on the road in a playoff clinching scenario, which is always tough. And they also need the Seahawks to lose to the Rams this week, which is, in my opinion, pretty unlikely. Even with Joe Flacco starting and Sam Darnold connected with DJ Moore last few weeks. Yeah, I mean, like it's really close. I personally would still go with Garrett Wilson, though. Yeah, especially against Miami. Their secondary has really been struggling in the past few weeks. Watson, Smith, or Pittman at the flex. I would go with Christian Watson, just the most to play for out of that entire group. A lot less, playoff, a lot more playoff implications than Pittman or even Devontae Smith. Because realistically, if the Eagles get up early, I don't see any way Devontae Smith finishes this game. But either way, closing in on 55 minutes. Appreciate the 31 of you that are still in here. Is Conklin a good start? Pretty volatile, but realistically, who isn't in this week? I don't mind him as a start, but appreciate you guys. Good luck in your matchups. We should be live again this week. So if you guys have, any more things that you want to cite, maybe you're in a playoff league, maybe, you want to know what potential playoff brackets we should follow, we got all that content available to you over here at the Fantasy Stock Exchange. So appreciate you guys. Take care. Good luck. Hopefully you get whatever you need to potentially take home the championship in your leagues, regardless if it's, Bills and Bengals players potentially playing their week 18s out or whether in a full-fledged week 18 championship. But take care. Dope.